Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. I'm happy to be here. It's a blessing for me to be with you. 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and man, it's just one of them days, right? There's so much going on. I don't know what I want to talk about. And when I say so much going on, I mean like a busy news day, but like so much going on in my brain, right? That's the ADHD kicking in. But I want to get into some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight because there's plenty to discuss. Obviously, there's news coming out of the White House. There's always news, right? We have a jobs report that is pretty favorable. I think there was 90% of the jobs added were from the private sector. Ain't that something, right? That's very different than what we've seen in the past, where you had jobs that were being created by the government. I remember one quarter, there were these green jobs. I remember Biden was trying to tout that as some sort of huge accomplishment, huge type of thing, right? Where he was like, this is great for everybody because we're giving these people jobs, when all it was in order to make sure that we added jobs. And he could keep saying, look, the economy's a little rough right now, but, the employment is good. Our employment numbers look good. We're doing okay. And the stock market, look, despite the high inflation, we're okay. And all of it turned out to be fake, phony, and fraud, right? The jobs reports were consistently fake. They were constantly readjusted. And whatever growth we were seeing, not all of it, but a good amount of it, were government jobs. Biden hiring his crony friends, people, voters, trying to make good with the numbers, right? Trying to make good with the jobs report to make it look like, yeah, we're doing our thing over here. We're not asleep at the wheel, but we were asleep at the wheel, and that's exactly what it is. So I think when you see a jobs report like the one that came out today, where 90% of the jobs are coming from the private sector, I think that is a very good thing. And there's also this clip I wanted to play for you. Now, the clip is, let me see, was it number 18 or 19? Which one is it? Which one was it again? Yeah, let's go with this one. Number 19, regarding the tariffs. Listen to this.
President Trump closed a loophole that kept small, low-price items from being tariffed. That exemption is what helped fast fashion clothes like Shein and Temu to be so affordable. The tariff exemption started in the 1930s for things that were considered to be too small to keep border and customs agents from focusing on bigger, high-dollar imports. President Trump, though, calling that exemption a big scam.
So I like this. I'm going to tell you why I like this. Well, I got a whole story for you, right? Let me see if I have time for this. So there's a gentleman that I used to do some work in my bathroom last year, and he's an extraordinarily nice guy. We were pretty clear on the fact that we didn't have similar political ideology, but when I say that, I don't want you to think like he was some sort of hardcore leftist and I'm like off the charts on the right. Neither is true, right? What was true was we found a lot of common ground in our conversation last time. Number one, he was telling me he was like, look, I don't like Trump, and I've never been a Republican, but I don't like what's happening right now. He's like, we can't teach our little boys that it's okay to become a little girl. And we can't teach our little girls that it's okay for little boys pretending to be little girls, or, that they should be accepted as little girls and play sports with them. He's like, that's just not natural. It's just not normal. And I was like, yeah, look, we're in agreement here, brother. We talked about that. We talked about a number of things. And he was not so anti-Trump. He was just kind of like, I don't like the guy. He's like, I personally think he's a racist, but, that's me. And he left it at that. This time around, we had our conversation was really apolitical until it wasn't. And again, everybody who listens to this show for more than, one night, that this is my career, right? I talk about the news of the day. I talk about entertainment. I talk about headlines, current events, which oftentimes includes politics. And I worked in government, so I have my own penchant for politics. My views are usually pretty conservative. And part of my day, whether I worked in this or not, always consists of me following the news and going, oh, unbelievable what the left is doing, right? That's just how I am. So that being said, I'm me. Now, he and I start talking, and I don't ever bring my political views into most discussions. If I go to buy something at 7-Eleven, I'm not an evangelist for liberty, freedom, and any of those things. I'm really not. I'm just like, hey, how are you? How's your family? Great. Did you know it's going to be 79 degrees tomorrow? Wow, that's fantastic. Hope business is going good for you. Take care, pal. And that's it. That's the end of my story. I don't go there and say, oh, business is going bad? Yeah, you know why? It's the damn Democrats. It's the freaking radical left. They're here to kill us. They're trying to take everything. They're trying to take our sons and make them daughters, our daughters and make them sons. Oh, Lord Jesus, help us. No, that's not what I do. I really don't. Why? Because I spend enough time doing it in my professional life and in other parts of my real life where, like last night, right? I'll tell you what I did last night in a little bit. But outside of all that, I feel like it's okay for us to get along with people. It's okay. I don't need to know that you're a communist, that you're a socialist, that you are apolitical, that you haven't voted in the last 30 years, that you vote all the time straight down the line for the right or for the left or whatever. I try to not judge people based on that because I think that there's more to life than those things. Now, that being said, I don't lead with politics because I want to believe in people and I want to treat people well. And I'm a human, and I realize if somebody were to tell me that they were, a radical lefty, I might be inclined to not like them so much. And I don't want to be that guy. But anyway, all that being said, I already know this guy wasn't a big fan of Trump's. And listen, I'm a fan of Trump's, but life goes on, right? We're talking about you fixing my bathroom last time. This time he was doing something for me in the kitchen. Okay, great. He says, what do you think about your commander-in-chief? I said, I think he's terrific. And he said, come on. Don't tell me you're still drinking the Kool-Aid, even after he's deporting people with no due process. I laughed. Like, not just a laugh. It was a scoff, a deep scoff, where I threw the back of my head back. My chin was up in the air. I was like, ha, ha, ha. That kind of scoff, real heavy one. And he was like, no way. And I was like, brother, listen, if the shoe fits, you got to wear it. This guy fits the terrorist mold. And guess what? Terrorists don't get the due process that you and me get. And that's constitutional, brother. That's it. That's it. It's over. He starts literally yelling. He's like, no way. I can't believe you. Oh, my God. You said it. You've exposed yourself. And I'm thinking, come on, relax. Take it. And then he's like, you know what? I'm not getting into this. I'm going to keep talking about vacations. I'm going to keep talking about everything else we talked about, but I'm not talking about this. I said, brother, you should. You definitely, if this bothers you, look how triggered you are. And he's like, yeah, I just can't believe it. You're just so blind. Like you will blindly follow that man wherever he goes. I said, it's not blind. He said, but don't you have your own internal morality gauge that you just don't see that he's an immoral man? He's a criminal. He is a predator. The type of person you wouldn't leave your daughter around. I was like, listen, brother, the guy lives in the White House. If I go to the White House with my daughter and I got to step out, I'll leave my daughter there. What's going to happen, right? I was like, I really, I don't have an issue here. He was like, yeah, I bet you don't. And he was just so disappointed in me, like in my humanity. It was a fatal flaw that I disagreed with him politically. And that's, again, very common of those who lean to the left. Anyway, we didn't talk much after that. But it made me realize that this is where we are. Things are still very, very contentious. And this is the reason that those that don't like Trump, don't like America in many ways, think that there's something I guess the glass is half empty when you look at America versus me. I think the glass is half full when I look at America. And these are the same fundamental differences we'll always have. They may come around, they may not. It's very unlike me ever coming around to them because I think that type of thinking isn't good, right? I believe in liberty. I believe in the free markets. I believe in America. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to believe in being your friend if you don't agree with those things. It just means I know that sometimes, the old saying, you can't beat a dead horse. Well, guess what? You can. You can beat the crap out of a dead horse, but it's not going to get the beating. The horse is dead. And that's how I look at certain people, like some of the callers that call in sometimes that disagree. I try to have a conversation when I can have one. And I'll try to ask them a thought-provoking question when I can. But oftentimes, if they're a dead horse, I can't beat them. So I just got to move on. And that's just how it works sometimes. So I think it's great that Trump has eliminated these costs that were making Temu and Shein and these things ridiculously cheap, right? And while it was nice to get cheap things, it was coming at the expense of Americans. And I brought all of this to say full circle. Made in America, right? Made in America has always cost more. And those who love the country sometimes are willing to put, their best foot forward and say, I want to buy made in America. And I've shared this before. I have these shirts that say Rich Valdez. I have a flag. It's like a little logo for the show. And I've been offered very small amounts for that. Like we can get the shirt made in China, we'll print it, blah, 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 ship them right out. It's super cheap. And I'm like, where's the shirt from? They're like, yeah, it's China. We do it. Everything in China. It's just super fast. And I'm like, no. I can't have a show called Rich Valdez America at Night or my podcast, This is America with Rich Valdez, and send you a shirt that says made in China. I said, I want the shirt to be made in America. And I want my buddy, this kid who is American of Colombian heritage. I went to high school with him. He's got a printing company in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. And that's where all my T-shirts are printed, right here in New Jersey, USA, on American-made T-shirts. And they cost wholesale to me to get one. I think it's 11 or 12 bucks. And so if I were to resell them, I'd have to sell them obviously higher than 12 bucks to make any profit. And that's 12 bucks at buying, like, I guess a dozen. If I bought 2 or 3 dozen, then maybe it goes down a little bit. But the point I'm making is it's always cost more to buy American. Well, guess what? Now we're creating an environment, thanks to El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, that we are creating the conditions where buying American might be the cheapest option for you. Now, I know you're thinking, come on, Rich, you're trying to sell this. We could buy made in China. It used to be so much cheaper, but it shouldn't be cheaper. And it's good that we enable these loopholes that make this stuff extraordinarily cheap. We don't need that. Now, for the folks out there that say, but China has become your sweatshop. Don't you want that? No, I don't want that. I liked it when the grandmas and the moms of my friends were working as seamstresses in textile and sewing factories all over Union City and North Bergen, New Jersey, and Silk City, as they once called it, Patterson, New Jersey. Filled at one point with factories upon factories, warehouses upon warehouses. Many of them in Patterson are abandoned today. They were making guns in Patterson back in the days. Colt had their headquarters there in Patterson, New Jersey. Markel, the paper towel, toilet paper company. They are still in Patterson. I think up until like a couple of years ago, they had a massive fire in their huge flagship warehouse. These things all came out of America and little by little were replaced by cheap Chinese and other foreign labor. Well, guess what? When you eliminate the illegality of all the cheap foreign labor, the United States becomes that much more competitive. Now, I've mentioned before that I've been working on a couple of updates in my kitchen, and I went to buy some appliances. And I remember we were talking, and the guy was like, look, these are the ones that were made in America, made in the USA, GE. And he didn't have any in stock. Otherwise, I would have gotten them. But he said, we're getting a bunch in because they're about to become the only game in town for a lot of people because the tariff pricing goes into effect on May 1st. And with the tariff pricing in effect, the GE stuff isn't getting tariffed because they're made in the USA. And the other stuff is. It just worked out for me that I bought my stuff on April 30th. So I was able to get it, and they didn't have the GE stuff anyway. But my point is, and I did not buy made in China stuff, thankfully. But the moral of the story I'm telling here is that there are a lot of people that, whether they like it or not, I think are going to start to see the value very quickly in why people should buy American. And if for that alone, if that's the only thing that people get out of this entire tariff experience, then I think Trump is successful. Now, one more thing I wanted to share with you was I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not amazing like Kreskin or anybody else. I'm not clairvoyant. But I did tell you, signal scandal, heads will roll. Shortly after, some heads rolled. And I said, I don't know if it's going to be lower-level people or higher-level people, but trust me, heads will roll. Well, guess what? Mike Waltz out as National Security Advisor. That happened yesterday. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I wanted to be on the air to share that with you. And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more. And I'll tell you a little bit about my adventure yesterday. So keep it locked right here, folks. Coming right back. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Well, first of all, Ford is really different. We make 80% in the U.S., more than any other manufacturer. In fact, we made 400,000 more vehicles than our next competitor, and that would fill up the entire island of Manhattan. That's how big of a gap we've made. So, look, we think this is really great for the country. We really support the president's initiative. We never left the America on car production, and so this moderation is reasonable. I think for mostly our competitors. They need more time, but at Ford, we're in good shape. And this is the right thing to do. We really appreciate the dialogue we've had with the president, but we have a lot more work to do with him and the team.
That there, the CEO of Ford Motor Company talking about exactly what you heard. They're going to make more cars, and they're making them right here in the USA. And again, I'll just direct your attention to an article from a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, where, again, Honda's saying we are going to stop making cars in Canada and Mexico, move them right into the United States, and would they commit to 90% of their auto sales will be cars made here in the United States. Very, very good stuff. Let's go to Justin, Wilmington, North Carolina, WAAV, it says here. Go right ahead, Justin.
Yes, sir. First-time caller. And
welcome.
I'm calling just to comment. Thank you. I hear you when I get off late, and I'm on my way home sometimes. So I hear in the media people use these comments like, I won't say which show.
Justin, hang on. The music is playing, and we've used up all your time with pleasantries. So if you can hang on, we'll come back to your call as soon as we're back. Folks, we're coming right back. The phone lines are open. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We're going to continue with our calls. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. And one of the things that President Trump has proposed is cutting government spending in addition to the revenue that's being created by tariffs. And He was speaking about tariffs just a couple of days ago with respect to China in particular. And I want you to hear this clip. Check this out.
When he speaks to President Xi of China,
That'll happen. I mean, look, right now, and I told you before, they're having tremendous difficulty because their factories are not doing business. They made $1 trillion with Biden, $1 trillion, even $1.1 trillion with Biden selling us stuff. Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, you know. And maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way. They have ships that are loaded up with stuff, much of which, not all of it, but much of which we don't need. And we have to make a fair deal. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, but China, I would say, is the leading one, the leading candidate for the chief ripper offer.
Chief Ripper offer. Love that. So I want to get your thoughts on free and fair trade and China being the big Chief Ripper offer. Let's go back to our caller, Justin, calling us from Wilmington, North Carolina. Go right ahead, WAAV.
Thank you. What I'm saying is the press uses terms like free and fair trade, and we want to get to zero tariffs. Well, that's not free and fair trade. Not when our companies are required to match our Social Security contributions, pay workman's comp, pay a minimum wage, environmental regulations, and then we're competing with, basically slave labor and no regulations, that we cannot compete. That is not fair. We have to protect our jobs and keep our dollars in our economy, and the way to do that is to buy American and manufacture American, and everything else is just a ripoff. Thank you.
Well put. You're right, and this is the same thing environmentally, right? So you've got China, who was part of the net zero initiative, and China being one of the biggest, if not the biggest, polluter on the planet. Yet they were all about that, and then they said, you know what? We're bailing out from this net zero thing. We're not going to do the zero carbon thing because it just doesn't work out for us. But the United States actually does. We have radical lefties that keep us way more than in check, right? They put us, I'm going to say, in the red because of their crazy policies, and to the point where we're looking to get things externally, right? They didn't want us ever digging for oil, drilling for oil. They don't want us doing anything. They don't want us mining for any of our own minerals. And this becomes so problematic every single time. And China, they mine their own stuff if they feel like it, but they've got the mining rights to so many minerals all over the country, all over the world, excuse me. And it really, really is advantageous for them. So very good point that you bring up. When the United States has to play by the rules, because they're not playing by the rules, when we have to make sure that we have OSHA requirements and that we're taking care of people and that, there's you name it, any number of things that you have to pay just to employ a single person, and they're working people literally till they die. That's, kind of tough to compete with. So, Justin, very good point. Justin in Wilmington, North Carolina, WAAV. Let me see. I want to continue with the calls, but there was something I wanted to talk about, and it's an article that I wanted to bring your attention to. But let me see. It's on my desk here. Anyway, before I get to that, all right, it's really moving past me. I had it lined up. All right. Well, I'll get to it. It will come back to me. But I think this is, again, part and parcel of the strategy. And maybe it's me, right? Maybe I'm the one that's buying into this too much, but I'm all for it. I think I'm all for people supporting the country they live in. I'm all for people. I bought Ford, just to be very frank here. I don't know. It's got to be at least 12 years straight. Every car I bought was a Ford. I honestly only stopped because they started outsourcing some of their bigger parts. Like I bought a car, I peeled the sticker off the window. It was a Ford Explorer for my then wife. And it was, I don't know, I think it said engine made in Germany, transmission made in France, or vice versa. And I thought, whatever happened to good old made in the USA? And And that was when it hit me. I said, you know what? If American companies are outsourcing everything, then I'm going to look for a car that's a foreign make that is built in the USA. And at the time, Honda, I think, was building Acuras here, and I think I found one that was, largely built in the U.S., and I really liked that car, so I got an Acura. And that was when I kind of said, all right, maybe I'll do this. And listen, I think one of the best cars out there might be Toyota. Toyotas are great. Hondas are great when it comes to durability, reliability, all of that stuff. But I've always liked a big American truck. It just feels right, Something's right in life when I have a big American truck. So I recently switched from Ford, or last year, 2 years ago, maybe going on 3 now. Yeah, I think this is my third May. This May will be my third May with a GM SUV. And I love it. It's a great car. So my point is, and it has a big sticker on the door. It says made in Texas, or assembled in Texas, or whatever it said. But this one came from Texas. And I thought that was really cool. I didn't even know they made cars in Texas. So you learn something new every day. Point is, we need to be patriotic in our in the expenses we make, in the investments that we make. If you're buying a car, which is usually a liability and an expense, not so much of an investment, but if it's business and you can get write-offs, then it is an investment. But whatever the case be, we need to, when we can, do it. I mean, I'm all for having options, but I'm equally as for and open to doing the right thing with stuff. Anyway, I want to continue with your calls. Let me see. Where do we go? Well, I'll take a pause right here, and we'll come back to your calls. 833-482-5337. I see we have calls coming in now. We have calls from Idaho. Don't go anywhere, folks. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
My hands across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez, keeping you company all night long, like that old Lionel Richie song. All night long, all night, yeah. I wanted to play that coming back, but then the producers give me a hard time because they have to take it out for the podcast. It's always something, right? But I should have brought that back. Maybe on the next commercial break, we'll come back with a little Lionel Richie all night long. But before we get into that, that voice that you just heard on the return there, that was my good friend and one of my mentors, Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis Sliwa is a radio host from New York. He's running for mayor in New York and New York City. And I saw him last night at the State of the District address, which I had the honor of hosting at the invitation of the Honorable Councilwoman Vicky Palladino, District 19, Queens in New York City. And what a great time that was. This was a pretty big crowd, about 500 people. I got to MC the entire night. The Terumi violin orchestra played. It was phenomenal. The Bayside Queens choir, they also serenaded us. Lots of people were in attendance. I met the sheriff of New York City. I didn't even know New York City had a sheriff. That's how ignorant I was on that. But that was really cool. The sheriff, nice guy, very nice guy. Who else? I just saw lots of great people. Some of the founding members of the Guardian Angels that, started it with Curtis Sliwa. 13 and a couple other guys. Just really just fantastic time that we had last night with a lot of really good people. And it was great to see. I say all of this to say, not to tell you about all the fun I had, but great to see how a unapologetic, conservative, Christian, Catholic, Trump Republican candidate from Queens, New York City, accent and everything. This woman, Vicky Palladino, ran as a candidate. People thought at the time, oh, there's no way she could win. She's a conservative. She's a crazy. She's a this. She's a that. She's a winner. She is a sworn member of the New York City Council. I saw my buddy Frank Morano. Frank Morano also won his primary 2 nights ago. I saw him last night, and I couldn't have been happier for him, right? He is a radio colleague of mine, former radio colleague, ran for the seat that was vacated by former minority leader Joe Borelli, who was term limited out of his position and now is a big lobbyist. But prior to doing that, he did a great job in the New York City Council. The Republicans are in the minority big time, bigly, as the El Trompito would say. And it's just great to see Republicans who are making no bones about it, right? These are not Republicans that look like Democrats. These are not Mitch McConnell type Republicans. These are real Republicans. And to see them unabashedly winning these seats, defeating people in primaries, and doing the right thing once they're elected it does something for my soul, and I love it. And I wanted to share that with you. And it was really just a pleasure and an honor to MC the State of the District address last night in New York City. So shout out to Councilwoman Vicky Palladino and her entire team, as well as the folks at Bayside High School in Queens, my good buddy Curtis Sleva, Frank Morano, and everybody else. It was really just an honor and a pleasure to be there. And I want to continue with your calls. Let's go to Federico. Federico in La Quinta, California. Streaming the show tonight, richvaldez.com. Go right ahead.
Hi, how are you, sir? God bless you.
God bless you, brother. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Trump. God bless what's going on right now. I just want to say that I spend a lot of time in Latin countries. I'm from Costa Rica. I have a house there. I spend a lot of time over there. And what's going on right now, the Democrats, they are desperate to get criminals from El Salvador, from anywhere in the world. They need criminals. They need killers. They need killers because the American people, they don't have the heart to. They don't have the heart to kill. Those people, they kill a whole bunch of people with no problem at all. What the Democrats are trying to do is because they promised the country to China. They promised the country to China, and now it's like a cartel. Now they have to. They promise and they have to
deliver.
So they're so desperate. They're so desperate for criminals because they want to start a war here, and they need real criminals. They don't need nice people like American people.
You know, Federico, I've heard this argument before, and I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying I don't see the win there. I don't see the upside for somebody selling out their country unless China's paying them all to, betray their own countrymen. But I will say China's always been trying to get us. And I have no doubt that they have agents of theirs, not only working in police departments in New York City like we've seen here in New York, but at places all over, right? Working inside the government. They've got Americans on their payroll feeding them information. They've got all sorts of spies. They're a espionage program is the word I'm looking for. Their espionage program, I think, is alive and well, and if I dare say, probably pretty robust. And it's a shame that it is, but that's where we are. And so much of that, in my opinion, is done through the party systems, right? There was one guest that we had on this program who was pointing out some Republicans that would refuse, or had refused at the time, to take any firm stance against anything that would harm some legislation that was favorable to China. And to that I say, look, this is being borderline traitor to your country. And we have to be able to say, look, we don't want your money. We're not in bed with you. But those are choices that come from within. Those are internal locus of control issues where you've got to make these decisions based on your own worldview, based on your own belief system, based on what it is that makes you who you are. And for some people, it's their faith, it's their relationship with Jesus, it's many different things, the way they were raised. I could tell you, listen, I'm going to be 47 years old on Monday. Cinco de Mayo is my birthday. I turned 47. And I don't think a day goes by where I don't think of something I just did and think, oh my God, if my father were alive and he heard me say that, or I go, what would my mother say if I did that? I'm constantly using that rubric of, did I meet the standard that my parents taught me? And I think that is so important in life, to have something to live up to. Whether, it works for you or not is a different story. For me, it does. I think the reason I don't kill people is not because it's wrong. Not because it's because I'll go to jail, but because it's wrong, right? I don't do it because of fear of the consequence. I do it because it's something that we shouldn't do. And I think, for some in politics, it doesn't matter if it's wrong. They'll do whatever they got to do. And I'm using the extreme of murder, but really what I'm talking about is anything that is unscrupulous, anything that might be unseemly. Some people are willing to go that route and do those types of things because they don't care. So anyway, that was kind of my thought on that, Federico. Now, where's La Quinta, California? Is that Los Angeles County? Where is that?
No, it's by Palm Springs.
Oh, by Palm Springs. Oh, that's where the money is.
Palm Springs. It's a beauty. Well, I live in a nice house, but I don't have a lot of money. But I live in
I don't know if I believe you.
It's a blessing place, The house in Costa Rica, that is beautiful. My God, it's a blessing.
When you said you were from Costa Rica, I was going to tell you, I've heard nothing but that it's absolutely one of the most beautiful places in the world. My daughter did a missions trip to Costa Rica, and she said it was absolutely beautiful, and she loved the people, and both the natives and a lot of refugees from Nicaragua. Is that right?
Yes. Those people, they're going through hard time. Right now, it's the governor of Nicaragua. He wants to let the Chinese to cut all the old trees that are 100 years old, 150.
And they're communists, right, in Nicaragua?
Yeah, they're communists, but the Indians from Nicaragua, they're trying to fight the Chinese. That way they don't cut those trees. So the Indians, they're trying to save the trees.
Amen to that. Well, brother, thank you for the call. I got to take a pause right here. But Federico, La Quinta, California, God bless you, brother. Have a great weekend. And amigos, we come back with your calls and more. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez, keeping you company all night long. And we're live and national, so I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys over the telefono. Let's go to Boise, Idaho, check in with Paul. Paul's streaming the show. Paul, what's up, my brother? What's going on?
Thanks for taking my call. So last night you were actually MC Valdez.
Yes, I was. It was a really good time.
Yeah, you still did a good job. I don't think I'd ever heard him before on the radio, but
he's a local guy out of WDAY, one of our affiliates, and he does a good job.
Yep. So anyway, I thought about this. They were making a big deal about the first 100 days for Trump. I think they forgot to do something, and that was to list all the accomplishments that he did in that 100 days. And I'll bet you dollars to donuts with all the executive orders that he wrote, all the other things that came to fruition during that first 100 days. It's probably close to 200 things that he did of real substance.
No question. And all the executive orders and all the other stuff he's done. You're right, Paul. I think he's nailing it. And we had a clip of Caroline Levitt, and maybe we'll play that when we come back. Folks, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez, and everybody else, keep it locked right here. We're coming right back. More to come. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and the phone lines are open if you want to join us. We're doing a lot of calls tonight. It's Friday night. I'd like to let my hair down a little bit, 833-482-5337. And as is the tradition on this program, you can talk about anything you like, whether it's on topic or off topic. I'm happy to have that conversation with you, 833-4-VALDEZ. But first, I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in the media, because it seems like the Democrats, in particular the left within the Democrat Party, the left within the media, the left within our government, they've got their collective panties in a bunch. And they seem like they're just so dissatisfied with the level of success that we're seeing, that they don't know where to put their energy. They don't know what to criticize. They don't know what else they can complain about. So they're complaining about everything. And while immigration seems to be working, right, it seems the border policies are working. You remember when Biden said, we need Congress. They got to pass laws. You know the thing. Meanwhile, we just needed to elect El Trompito, and voila, border fixed. But now, of course, they're very upset about deporting someone without due process. Well, what I can say to that is minorities, in particular, Hispanic men, black men, Hispanic women, some black women, they voted for Trump in large part because they like the policies. And I was watching this video of 3 black voters. They all voted for Trump. And they're telling Van Jones on CNN that they would vote for him again. And he was kind of like incredulous, but he saw it coming. Listen to this.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump again, yes or no?
Yes, I would. Now, in the future, I am not a diehard Democrat or a diehard Republican. If there were a Democratic candidate who was more aligned for me, then I would vote Democrat.
If you go back in time, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
Yes.
I think I might know the answer on this thing.
She said yes. It's immediately yes. No, I'm sorry.
If you had to do it all over again, would you vote for Donald Trump, yes or no?
1,000% absolutely yes.
Obviously, no equivocation there, right? These people were extremely clear about their position on Trump. Even the first lady, she made the caveat and said, look, if there were a Democrat out there, I could make that. And I do say it all the time. I tell people, look, I've never, since I've been able to vote, I've never voted for a Democrat. I once thought of voting for Bob Menendez because, he was a Hispanic guy, lived in the same county as me. And I thought, this guy probably gets it. And I was young, but I still didn't pull the trigger for the guy. Because, again, I didn't know enough. And it was literally the first time I ever voted. And it was the only time I considered voting for a Democrat. But all that to say, these people knew exactly what they were doing. They voted for Trump because of what he said he was going to do. And guess what? He's doing it. This was not a bait and switch. Trump didn't say, I am not going to impose tariffs on America. I am not going to deport illegal alien gang members. I am not going to... he was very clear on what he was going to do. And he's doing it, and that's what people voted for. And this goes back to a conversation I had with somebody who was doing some work in my house. Very good guy, by the way. And he was dumbfounded that I'm still supportive of Trump. And he said, but how could you? Don't you understand the morality? This man is a predator. This man is he said, would you leave your children alone with this man? I said, of course I'd leave my children alone with him. He's the president of the United States. Listen, as much as I don't like Biden and his sniffing proclivities, I'd leave my kids alone with Biden too. Now, he might try to sniff one of my kids, but guess what? My daughter, Jada, she competed with the Liberty University Taekwondo Club. She can throw some pretty high kicks. She's pretty tough, let me tell you. So I think she could handle herself. And she doesn't even like giving hugs to her family members, let alone this guy coming creepy, trying to get a little snifferoo of her shampoo. So, yeah, I think he'd be in for a surprise. And my other daughter, she's equally as get off. So I have no issue with that. I don't think Biden's a threat to them. When I leave him alone with Hunter, I'm going to say no. But the point here was not that. The point was these people voted for Trump because of what he said he was going to do, and he's doing what he said he was going to do. People want to see immigration handled. People want to see people sent home. I have another clip. I'm going to try and dig it up. Probably won't get to play it here, but maybe in about a half hour we'll play it. And it was Maryland voters being asked about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And they were like, no, man, send him home and leave him there. They didn't care. And one of them says, I never heard of this guy, Van Hollen. And that's their senator. Anyway, the point here that I was trying to get to was that these minority voters voted for Trump for that express purpose. Now, I also wanted to highlight something else, but I'll do that a little bit later. What was the other one? 10, 8, 12, and then 10. Stand by. I'm sorry. I wanted to go to this other clip, but it took more time than I wanted to, and I've got to stay in my radio clock. So let me see. Do I have enough time for number 10, Count Dracula? Number 10. Okay. So this is an interesting thing. This is a report from Fox 45 in Baltimore. And Fox 45 in Baltimore is reporting this, Mackenzie Frost reports, more and newer information that's piling up against Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Listen to this.
New court documents obtained by Fox 45 News help piece together a timeline of the family at the center of the immigration debate in the United States. A man named Edwin Ramos filed for an emergency custody hearing in August 2018. Ramos claiming the children were in serious danger because Jennifer Vasquez-Sura, the mother of the kids, quote, is dating a gang member. The court documents do not name who that gang member is. Vasquez-Sura said she and Kilmar Abrego Garcia got married in June 2019, according to court documents, while he was in ICE custody following an arrest in Prince George's County. Vasquez-Sura filed in 2021, claiming her husband punched and scratched her, leaving her bleeding. Later that same day, she says Abrego Garcia ripped off her shorts and shirt. The temporary order request says he hit her with his work boot in November 2020, and in August of that year, he hit her, leaving her with a purple eye. The Department of Homeland Security writing on social media, he is not the Maryland man the media has portrayed him to be.
That, again, is, mounting information about who this guy is. Right now you've got, these are not his kids, right? They keep calling him Maryland father, but there's some kids, I guess, that he's the stepdad to. And the father of these kids is saying, I don't want my kids around that guy. This guy's a gang member. Why would he say that back in 2019, 2018, 2020? Why would he say it? I'm going to give you a clue. Because he thought he was a gang member back then. Why is the media saying he's Maryland man, Maryland dad today, when the guy whose kids he lives with thinks that guy's a gang member? Are we going to make the argument that he's jealous that the lady left him and he's just going to make up stuff? Okay, let's say that's true, which I don't believe it is, but let's just say it's true. Why would he make up that the guy's a gang member? If my ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, whomever, and my ex-wife is remarried, right? If I wanted to say something about this guy, and I think he's a terrific guy, by the way, shout out to Will Chavis, but if that were in fact the case, I don't think I would say he's a gang member. I think there's a lot of things I could say, not the least of which is that he's a gang member. So my point is, this guy's not good, right? He's got the numeric tattoo on his hand of MS-13 that The police know about it. It wasn't like they made it up and go, oh, look, he's got knuckles. What could that mean? They know what it means, right? It's clear as day. That means MS-13, clear as day. And, unless people were inspired and they're like, oh, man, I saw the really coolest tattoo of this or that, a cross and a skull. And, man, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's what I want to get. Listen, and you're talking to a guy who wants knuckle tattoos. I've wanted them for a long time. Haven't gotten them just because I haven't gotten them. They're kind of permanent, so I want to make sure I get something cool. Point here is, this guy is, I'm going to say likely, maybe he's reformed today. Maybe he said, I don't want to be a gang member anymore. But he beat the crap out of his wife on more than one occasion where she went to the cops. I think it's important that we remember, if you've ever known anybody who was in an abusive relationship, something like 90% of them, if not higher, never, ever, ever seek intervention from the police, never report these things. This woman did, and had the bruises and everything to prove it on more than one occasion. She had her ex, the father of the children that lived with this man, saying that he's a gang member. He was stopped in a car, suspected of trafficking. There's all sorts of information about this guy. Yet he's still Maryland man, Maryland dad. And this is still the hill that many, the left within the media, the left within the Democrat Party, this is the hill they want to die on. Well, I want to get some reaction to that. The White House responding to it. We've got Art Del Cueto coming up. And this is a conversation that needs to be had. Plus, you all, the American people, we the people. So, familia, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back. Amigos, Rich Valdez keeping you company. We're live, we're national. 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number, and as I just mentioned, information, new evidence coming out daily about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, also known as Maryland man, Maryland dad, no due process. Meanwhile, I think most people know this guy was MS-13. He was doing all sorts of things that he shouldn't be doing, beating up his wife, and even her baby daddy, the children's father, was like, no, I don't want my kids there. This guy's a gang member. Clearly, when you put it in writing, you're concerned, right? I think this goes well beyond the squabble. But the White House weighed in on this today. Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff to President Trump, weighing in on this exact issue and excoriating the media. Listen to this.
And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Tren de Aragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
That is Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff to President Trump, and also under consideration, I think, right now to be National Security Advisor. But I want to get some reaction to that from somebody who is a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. He's the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council. Art Del Cueto, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Likewise. So talk to me. What's your perspective on what's going on with this Kilmar Abrego Garcia case? I feel like I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone half the time thinking, what is going on here? I mean, most people, I don't care what political persuasion you have, when you see a guy like this, you say, you know what, this is a guy who's up to no good. Why are people doubling down on protecting him and trying to make him a saint, almost like they did for George Floyd?
Look, exactly. Look, I think the radical left just has they don't understand who to pick to be their martyr. They keep picking the wrong guys to be their martyr. And they do it because their only concern is to go against whatever President Trump says or does. That's their biggest concern. Nothing else matters to them. Stephen Miller said it. Look, if you can give these individuals that are out there talking about it, the politicians, the actors, the musicians, put them in those same neighborhoods where these people are living for free, and they won't want to live there. I see it all the time. I've been on this border my entire life. I've worked on the border with Border Patrol for over 2 decades, and I can tell you right off the bat that I've seen the worst of the worst come across that border. And previously, I worked in the prison system. So I don't want them in my neighborhoods. I don't want them in my schools. I was one of the gang unit officers for the state of Arizona prison system. I don't even want these guys in our prison.
Oh, yeah? So let's talk about that, Art, because, folks, we're on with Art Del Cueto. He's vice president of the National Border Patrol Council. And I didn't know about your experience with gangs, but this is very helpful for this conversation. This guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, people are saying, well, you know, it's not clear if the tattoo on his knuckles, MS-13. I've heard countless law enforcement people say, sure, we know definitively that's what that is. What's going on with the tattoos? Is this guy in the gang or not?
From what I've seen of the tattoos, he is involved in gangs. From what I've heard from the intel from other law enforcement officers, he's involved in gangs. When I worked in the prison system and I saw the gangs that were come across, and I'm talking, we saw Mexican Mafia, New Mexican Mafia, Nazi lowriders, Aryan Brotherhood, you name it, I saw them. And I dealt with those individuals. They get very creative on how they develop their tattoos. Mm-hmm. That way they can tell other gang members, hey, yeah, they want to stay ahead of you. But the intel, the gang unit officers, you know, you have individuals, they'll snitch on each other. So that's how you get some of this information.
Yeah.
When I saw the tattoos on his hand, there was no doubt in my mind that he is involved with gang activity.
Yeah, and it's not just because he had tattoos on his hand, right? I was telling the audience, I want to get tattoos on my hand, but not because I'm in a gang. I just want to have tattoos on my hand. This guy's were specific.
It's the type of tattoos. It's the way he was trying to cover them up, the way he was showing them what each one represents. And let's not forget where he was apprehended at the same time. He was with other individuals that were gang members, that were wearing gang attire. I mean, there's no other reason. Why would you have gang-affiliated tattoos, wear gang-affiliated attire, and hang out with gang members unless you're a gang member? That's just what it comes
really
down to.
Bad wannabe, right? And in that case, something wrong with you.
Right. There's something wrong. Exactly. So, I mean, I think it comes down to this. The left has been so far lost. They only care about attacking President Trump for anything he does. They hate President Trump more than they love America.
And that is so sad. Art Del Cueto, stick with me. We're coming right back with the Vice President of the National Border Patrol Council. Art Del Cueto is going to tell us a little bit about his take on what is going on with these radical judges that hate Trump more than they love America, and they're getting in the way. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's Rich Valdez coming right back.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations, everybody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Another legal battle for the Trump administration. A judge ruling they cannot use the Alien Enemies Act to deport Trinidad gang members, saying the law requires a state of war or an invasion. President Trump, as you know, has said the U.S. is being invaded, and the FBI said the Maduro regime in Venezuela is trying to destabilize the U.S. by importing TDA members right here to the U.S. And the Trump administration is also asking the Supreme Court to let them revoke the protected status of illegal immigrants from Venezuela. This comes after a lower court blocked Homeland Security from stripping protected status from around 350,000 Venezuelans living right here in the U.S.
So we've got a couple of things going on here, right? You've got the predecessor to Hugo Chavez, Nicolás Maduro, the new dictator in Venezuela. He, in my opinion, is a straight criminal, and he's being critical of Trump. And I have no doubt in my mind that they're sending us the worst of the worst because they don't want it. And then we've got judges that are complicit in this game saying, sure, we got to keep them here. We got to protect them. And if they dare get deported, we got to go visit them and try to rescue them. What is going on with the judges in our country? Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the Border Patrol Council. Tell us what's going on. All right. Do we have Art? We lost Art. While we work on getting Art back, I will answer that question in the interim, because I think this is a clear case of, in my opinion, there's always, I think, a political response and I guess a legal or a public relations response. The public relations response that we're hearing now from a lot of people is it's about due process. It's about all these things. But what we're seeing here is really just people dragging their feet, digging their heels in, trying to be, I'm going to use the word, obstacular to Trump, to try and slow him down, not because they are defending one's right to due process, but because they don't like Trump. Art Del Cueto.
That's exactly what it comes down to. They don't like Trump. But I'm going to tell you something. When I'm seeing judges that took an oath, okay, to make sure that things were done correctly, if they're allowing people to get released, people that they know are criminals, and they're assisting them through back doors to open the doors and get them out of there, I would start looking at who else they've assisted. What other cases have they turned a blind eye on? Because I think if you start digging, there may be an even bigger corruption case than just somebody, pulling at their own heartstrings and saying that they decided to help out an illegal immigrant out the back door. This was a criminal, and you allowed that. What other criminals have you allowed through backdoor channels?
Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the Border Patrol Council, you say you've done this for 20 years on the border as law enforcement, Border Patrol agent. And in your time doing this, how many times have you seen judges do this type of thing to save the bad guy, get him out the back door?
Well, no, I've never seen it. That's what's insane. We truly are living in an upside-down world right now, where you got individuals that should be taking care of Americans, just not caring about Americans or America as a whole. It really is. It's heartbreaking. It's upsetting. It's frustrating. I said it many times before, and I'm sure you've heard it. Look, I get attacked so many times as a Hispanic saying, what am I doing? And why am I doing what I'm doing? Look, I close my door at night because I love the people inside, not because I hate the people outside. Our nation's borders are the exact same way.
Really well put. Art Del Cueto, Vice President of the Border Patrol Council. Now, Trump is out there saying the border's 99% secure. I'm thinking that's music to your ears. How's it looking for you guys?
It's looking good as far as the border being secure and everything taken care of. But I'm telling you, right now is not the time to just wait and make sure everything stays the way it is. We need to keep our foot on the gas. We need to keep moving forward, making sure everything's taken care of. And we need to take care of the agents. Look, there's some bills out there that, when you start looking at them, it actually hammers into agents' retirement. We need to make sure that the agents, the men and women that are out there putting their lives on the line each and every day, they risk their life. We need to make sure that they're taken care of as well, not just now, but in the future within their retirement age.
What are you guys at the Border Patrol Council doing to ensure that?
Well, we've been going back and forth. We're talking to Congress. We're talking to different individuals, making sure that the bills that are coming through are done correctly, but with the right and proper amendments, because at the end of the day, the men and women of the Border Patrol, they're the front line. They're the ones that have been, putting their necks out for a long, long time. We need to make sure that they're properly taken care of.
Well, for one, I want to thank you and not only the union, but all of the membership of the Border Patrol for doing what you guys do. The way Stephen Miller told the media, I'd pay for you to live there and you wouldn't do it. I'm pretty sure you could pay me a lot of money and I would say no to do your job. It's a tough job. It's grueling conditions, Texas, Arizona. I'm from New York. It's way too hot for me there. And it's just a crazy job. I talked to I guess a colleague of yours, Victor Avila. They shot at this guy, tried to kill him. It's crazy stuff, right? It's like, come on, how much are you going to pay me to do all that?
I spoke to Victor Avila yesterday. We were at an event last night together, and I was there with him. So I know Victor very well, and it is a tough job. Like I said, I've been doing this for over 2 decades on the border. Previous to that, I did 6 years on the prison system, dealing with the gang units and everything else. But I grew up on the border. I was raised on the border. I've been here my entire life. I've seen how bad it is. I've also seen how good it can get. But at the same time, we need to have the proper steps moving forward so we can remain in a good position.
Well, Victor, I appreciate it. And we have a big audience that reaches well into Washington, D.C. A lot of members of Congress listen to the show. So give them your final thoughts on what they need to know and what you're pushing for at the Border Patrol Council.
Look, they need to know that the agents are out there putting their lives on the line. They're the front line law enforcement that sees what's happening, and the National Border Patrol Council has been very vocal. During the Biden administration years, when no one else would speak up, the Border Patrol Council are the ones that spoke up. We're the ones that did the border tours. We made sure that everyone in the American public knew exactly what was happening, and we need to make sure that we move forward and we take care of those agents as well.
Outstanding. Listen, brother, Godspeed to you. You are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I hope to chat with you again really soon, brother.
Definitely. Thank you for having me, and I encourage all your listeners to follow me on my Instagram page at the official Art Del Cueto page, as well as through X at Art Del Cueto AZ.
Give them that information one more time.
So I'm on Instagram. I do a lot more on Instagram, so I'm on Instagram at the official Art Del Cueto Instagram page, as well as I'm on X at Art Del Cueto AZ.
Check them out. Follow Art Del Cueto on all of those platforms. And Art, again, thank you, sir, for being with us. Amigos, we're coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, it's Rich Valdez, and we're doing open phones across America. Of course, a tradition started by the late, great Larry King that you just heard, followed for another 3 decades by the amazing legend himself, Jim Bohannon. And in honor of Jimbo, I want to use the Jimbo line. Give us a call, 866-50-JIMBO, or 833-4-VALDEZ. Either way, you can end up in the same place with me, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you. Let's hit the phones. And I'm going to go to Joe, Bethel, Connecticut, WLAD. Go right ahead.
Hello, Mr. Valdez.
Hello, sir. How are you? Happy Friday.
Good. Well, welcome back. I missed you the other night.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I missed you too. Believe it or not, I'm really hooked on this stuff. I feel like because I get to talk to listeners from, from Missouri, from Georgia, from Florida, from Manila, Philippines, from Bethel, Connecticut, right? I have all these friends across the country that I get to talk to every night. And when I don't get to talk to you, I might be having a good time with some other friends, but it's like, come on, I just lost out on my, my late night national town hall conversation. So believe it or not, I miss you guys too. And I do have some other days off coming up. May is a busy month for me. I have a lot of big family milestones coming up, which are all good and positive, but I got to be there for them, and some of them are at night. But I really appreciate you saying that. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm good, and I want you to know a night without Valdez is a night without moonshine.
Moonshine. You know what they call moonshine in Puerto Rico? They call it pitorro. And pitorro is it's like Puerto Rican moonshine. It's kind of a rum that they make in the backyard. So thank you for saying that. That's very kind. That might make its way into becoming a commercial here on the show. You never know. Joe in Bethel, Connecticut, WLAD in the building. Thank you, sir. We continue with an original, one of the OGs, not old guy, but original gangsta. Original Gil, we're going to say. The Gilla from Manila. He's in Texas, not Manila. Streaming the show tonight. Shout out to KLIF. Go right ahead. Gil.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. I'm here trying to get into the Veterans Hospital in San Antonio. And this place, I understand why Elon Musk is doing what he's doing. This place is a mess. It really is. And
what are you experiencing, Gil?
Well, today is was the second day I went with someone called a patient advocate. He's actually a patient adversary, giving me reasons why they can't take care of my issues.
So you're going to get like care, like medical treatment or whatever, and they're explaining why they can't help you instead of saying, here's what we can do to help you.
Well, I have to be assigned a primary care physician, and there are none available maybe until the end of next week. So I might have to come back the end of next week. Meantime, I've got my wife and daughter with me. They've got to eat. They have a place to stay. I'm on a pension. I'm trying to stretch the money. But I've been to other VA facilities where they bend over backwards to do everything they can for you. And this place,
and that's what we want to hear. With the new secretary, Doug Collins, who I don't know, but always struck me as a stand-up guy, and I've seen him take a very active approach as secretary now at the VA. I would have suspected that, the approach that he's taking is really focused on getting results. And my hope is that that's going to continue to be the case. But you know what? A lot of people listen to this show, especially in the D.C. area on WMAL. And hopefully somebody will be able to help you because I want you to, get what you need. You serve this country very faithfully. And I, for one, am grateful for that. So, Gil, thank you, brother, and I wish you Godspeed. I hope everything works out. Gil in Texas tonight, not Manila, streaming the show, KLIF. And I'm going to take a pause right here. Then we're going to come back to calls from Missouri, Georgia, Florida, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company. We're live tonight. We're national. 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Joplin, Missouri, KZRG. Linda, go right ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm a new listener. I really like listening to you. I drive on Fridays to drop my son off, so you're on the radio after Mark Levin. And I
love
started
Mark
catching
Levin.
yours. Yeah. So I really like how you speak out the truth. I mean, it's no other way to say it, but it's just we're going through a lot of crazy stuff, and I think you guys were right on what I was hearing earlier. You were talking with the border control gentleman, and it's about hating Trump, and it's sad because then I heard the guy that spoke before me was talking about his health benefits through the vet.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just sad that we're more focused on a criminal overseas than we are taking care of our folks at home.
Yeah.
And I just,
right.
my hope is that everybody will come together on this eventually instead of fighting him so much.
Yeah, well, Linda, first, let me thank you. Very kind words, and I appreciate it. And I think you're right. It's a distraction, right? People want to do the right thing, in my opinion. I give a lot of people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'm wrong or naive to do that, but I think people want to do what's right. But when your healthcare system is somewhat taxed because you're dealing with an element of people that are, here illegally, and I don't begrudge them for trying to have a better life, but we need to have enough resources for everybody. And when we have a highly burdened Veterans Administration system and our emergency rooms are to the hilt, at some point we have to say, all right, hold on, take it easy. What's going on? We've got to pull this thing together. And I think we're in the midst of that right now. My hope is that things are going to get better for everybody really, really soon. Everybody, and not just you, me, and the people that are trying to make a better life in America, but everybody. I think it's going to get better for everybody. Linda in Joplin, Missouri, KCRG, thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll continue to call in and listen as well. Let me continue. Todd, Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Go right ahead quickly.
Hey, yes, Rich, I just want to say that these seditious judges keep yanking Trump's chain. He's got an ace up his sleeve. He could, suspend habeas corpus and use martial law. Lincoln did it. Ulysses S. Grant did it in 1871 to go after the KKK. And George W. Bush did it in 2006 to designate enemy combatants. So I hope Trump does that, and I hope he turns it on the CCP with all these secret police stations and these clandestine bioweapons labs and the spy balloon and all the spies in the Confucius Center. I hope he uses the Alien Enemies Act against them as well.
Well, Todd, listen, I think you may be onto something. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think many presidents have a lot of power, and Trump has been, honestly, he's so maligned in the media, right? They beat him up, they really do. But he's so judicious in his use of the power that he can use. And you're right on all those accounts. All those things did happen. And Trump, he just says, all right, we're going to use the Alien Enemies Act, not anything else, just the Alien Enemies Act. Just want to kick people out, and I want to do it quickly, expeditiously. And now they're saying, nope, can't do it. Now that's got to go to the Supreme Court. Right? They're playing the lawfare game. And you're right. Anything he does, they're going to sue him. They're going to sue the pants off of him. What Lincoln had going for him, sad to say, was the fact that we were in an active civil war, and that gave him additional power. I hope that we don't end up in a hot civil war where Trump will have that much more power, but you're right. Trump needs to use some of the power he's got in order to get things done. Thank you, Todd in Atlanta, WGKA. Lester in Daytona Beach, Florida, WNDB. Your thoughts quickly.
Thank you. Rich, I don't think the federal cops are going to turn in their German Glocks and buy Yankee guns.
Well, maybe they will. You never know. Honestly, you really never know. I happen to like the Glock. I really do. But I'm not opposed to... I've used other weapons that I think are fantastic, right? Smith & Wesson's a great gun, too. Anyway, good point. And let's see if that makes its way into our government. Lesta, WNDB. Thank you, sir. Folks, keep it locked right here. It's Valdez coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? It's Rich Valdez, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday night, 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're talking about a bunch of stuff. Of course, the courts are continuing to get in the way of El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, saying that he can't use the Alien Enemies Act until further notice. So more court battles for El Trompito, and of course, he also is now ending, right? Trump has announced that 1 second past midnight on May 2nd, which is tonight, the United States has ended a trading policy that has been exploited by the Chinese to flood the United States with cheap goods and smuggle illicit drugs into the country at the same time. Trump signed an executive order. That is President Trump. I know some people take exception to when I call him Trump, and I don't do that with any disrespect, just as a caveat. It's that Trump became a brand when I was a kid, and he was pretty much known as Trump. That was it. Trump was in the movies. Trump was in the rap videos. Trump was Trump. And quite often you'll hear himself refer to himself as Trump because it was a brand that he created. So when I say that, I say it with all due respect, and he is President Trump. And I don't intend to leave off the honorific. It's just in my mind, it's ingrained as Trump. Anyway, President Trump signed an executive order back in April to end the de minimis exemption of these goods imported from China and Hong Kong as of May 2nd. Now, the White House called it a critical step in countering the ongoing health emergency posed by the illicit flow of synthetic opioids like fentanyl into the U.S. Now, this exemption allows goods valued at $800 or less to enter the United States without being subject to duties or taxes. Since 2016, shippers from China and other parts of the world have imported billions in small packages into the U.S. under this exemption. Starting on May 2nd, the United States will begin collecting a duty of either 30% of the value of packages at $800 or less shipped through the International Postal Network, or $25 per item. On June 1st, that rate will increase to $50 per package. Packages valued at $800 or less shipped through means other than the International Postal Network will be subjected to all applicable duties, and all of this is according to a White House fact sheet. Macau, which, like Hong Kong, is considered by China to be a special administrative region, may be added to the list by the end of the summer over concerns that goods could be routed through Macau in order to circumvent these duties. So trade analysts who've spoken with the Epoch Times, and I'm reading from the Epoch Times right now, said the closure of what's known as the de minimis exemption to China and Hong Kong will deal a significant blow to online retailers who sell goods through websites such as Amazon, but will be especially detrimental to made-in-China retail giants like Shein and Temu. And good, because I've blocked these people from my social media. They have bombarded me for months and months and months and months. And you can get hooked on their cheap stuff. This is like drug dealers, you know. This is how drug dealers get you. Here, try this. You want some candy? Here, try this. And boom, now you're hooked and now you're theirs. So, good. I want to get your thoughts on this stuff and everything else because I think it's important to talk about that. This is inevitably a war that we are in. A trade war, nonetheless, but a war. And you can't just sit here and play a game. You can't just sit here and say, oh, manufacturing's never coming back to America. Wake up, different times. Imagine that. I mean, just imagine somebody saying, Hey, man, I'm getting married. You're getting married? Wow, good for you. I didn't know people got married anymore. What do you mean? Well, I mean, come on. Women aren't faithful anymore. Men aren't faithful anymore. You know, the divorce rate went from like 50. It's like up to 65 now. It's, you know, who gets married? Like, can you really hang out with all these naysayers? You know, in today's world, you can't bring manufacturing back. If you think like that, you'll never do anything in life, right? Imagine if somebody would have told me that. Said, no, listen, you have a background in sales and marketing, working in higher education. You spent some time in government. You don't know anything about the radio. How could you get into radio? I mean, you'll be lucky if you can get a weekend gig at some, you know, podunk station somewhere in market number 100, you know, or more. And listen, market number 100 is great. We're on in that market. I love it. But my point is, if I would have believed that type of thinking, I never would have thought market number 1, New York City, the biggest media market in the world, that I would have landed a radio gig there on the weekends and then weekdays, right? Did 10 to noon for a while. And then national syndication. I never would have believed it. Even the people I met. I went to the Radio Hall of Fame dinner once at the invitation of the great one, Mark Levin. Thank you for that, sir. And back in 2018. And I can tell you that a bunch of people were there. Cousin Brucey, right? He was there. I mean, so many people. So many. And I was listening to them speak. And they all had a similar story. Even the people I, you know, talked to offline that, you know, on the way to the food, to get food and come back from it. They all had the same type of story. Yeah, I got into radio when I was a teenager, and I just loved being in the studio, and I would sweep up. I would do whatever they let me do. You know, they applied to be a free intern. They just wanted to be in the game, in the building, in the studio, to have a shot. And then they would take that and build. And I think, you know, I was never that 15-year-old kid that spent all that time in a radio studio or even have had access to clean up in a radio studio when I was a teenager. I was busy trying to make a living when I was a teenager and starting a business by the time I was, you know, midway through being 16. And it was a different life I lived. And I just didn't have that same experience. I didn't go to college for broadcasting. I did study communications and business, but I wasn't specific to, you know, mass communication like that, like broadcasting. And if I would have believed that, it never would have happened. The same way, if you believe that, oh, it's different times. We can't have tariffs anymore. You know, back before 1913, we had all of our revenue coming in from tariffs. If you believe that that can't ever happen again, then that's on you. But luckily, you're not one of the people that's making those choices in the White House. And I think it's important for us to keep an open mind and realize there's a truth in the saying that Steve Jobs made, right? He said, those who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world usually are, and they usually change the world. And I believe in that too. You've got to be in it to win it. And that's pretty much it, right? It's important that we do what we do. You've got to believe in yourself. If I wouldn't believe in myself, I wouldn't be on the radio. And some of you, you know, many of you listen and enjoy the show, and I thank you for it. But some of you struggle. You're in areas where you don't get the clearest signal, and I thank you for listening too. But if you're struggling with getting good reception in your home or at work or wherever you're listening, you need the C-Crane CC Wi-Fi 3. It's an internet radio, and it's the solution for you. Trust me. Here's why. This CC Wi-Fi 3 radio is so special, in my opinion, because it connects the internet right to it, and then you're plugged in. You're on 30,000 radio stations worldwide, including stations carrying my show with no static, no fade, clear as day. Now, they use voice-focused audio, so it surpasses whatever audio you might get on your smartphone. Plus, there's no need to sign into any apps or worry about any additional monthly fees, like if you were a phone or an app. You don't need it. There's no eavesdropping microphones or pop-up ads. This is its own little unit, internet radio. It's fantastic. And I have a bunch of them, honestly, because they have some that work different ways, and they have smaller ones and larger ones. And they all work out. I've got a use for all of them. And with a full-size remote control, You could sit on the couch, your favorite easy chair, however you like, and listen to whatever you want to listen to, and it really hasn't ever been easier. This is a pretty good system. And you can use it at the beach, fishing, wherever you go, because you can use it as a Bluetooth speaker as well. So listen to your music, listen to your podcast, whatever. I recommend you order one for yourself, one to give away to someone that you love. So if you love more than one person, get 2 or 3 of these. That's why I have a few. I got them for my kids. So order the CC Wi-Fi 3 at 1-800-522-8863. Just call C. Crane. They're the company that makes it. 1-800-522-8863. Or just visit C. Crane online at ccrane.com/rich. I'll spell that out for you. That's ccrane.com/RICH. ccrane.com/RICH. And when you use my name, code RICH, at the checkout, you're going to get 10% off any orders that are over $75. And this is also available on Amazon. So what are you waiting for? Go check it out. Go to ccrane.com/rich.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez, live and national. 833-4-VALDEZ is the number. I want you to join our conversation because I want to take a look back at things, or I should say I want to take a look back and a look forward at the same time, right? Using the context of history as historical analysis to take a look at what is going on in the future, right? Analyzing our current affairs and what we can expect down the road. And to do that, I want to play a clip of El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, giving a commencement address at the University of Auburn in Alabama. I think this is where we yell roll tide. Go ahead.
Now exactly 250 years after the first Patriots stood and fought at Lexington and Concord, we're in the midst of another kind of revolution, a revolution of winning and a revolution of common sense. Common sense. Everywhere you look, broken systems, corrupt institutions, and tired dogmas are being swept away by the tide of history. Ancient wisdom is being rediscovered, and the best and strongest traits of America are coming back for all to see, bigger, better, and greater than ever. Coming back, and they're coming back fast. The spirit of our age is one of boldness, vigor, ambition, and adventure, and it's exciting to be you and young. Oh, I'd pay you a lot of money to have your age. You have a great future.
A great future. That, of course, President Trump delivering those remarks at a graduation speech. And I want to get some reaction to that because I think it fits so well with a lot of things, both what's going on now, what we can expect, and really I want to take a look at the past as well. Richard Battle has written a bunch of books. He's been on this program before, and he has experience both in the corporate space as well as in the nonprofit space, and he's got a book called Americans Who Made America, 18th century, the 18th century birth of the Republic. And I want to get his thoughts on this and how Trump's agenda aligns with Washington's vision for America, as well as chatting about his book a little bit. Again, Richard Battle, welcome back.
Good evening, Rich. Thank you so much for having us back with you this evening.
You bet. So let's chat about this just a tad, because it seems like Trump is talking about this revolution. He's saying that, you know, we're doing it in a grand new way. And I have to say, I believe that we are. I sense and feel the newness of the energy in so much of what's going on. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree, and that's part of the reason. April 30th was the anniversary of George Washington being sworn in as the first president of the United States. And if you go back from there to when the independence movement started, it was 1765, 24 years before. And so our ancestors persevered through 24 years of protest and the Declaration of Independence, and then 8 years of war and the failed Articles of Confederation, finally coming up with a Constitution, giving us a republic. And we never hear of the word republic anymore from our elected officials or the media. They talk about democracies. And Trump mentioned ancient wisdoms, and Aristotle, almost 2,000 years ago, said, republics decline into democracies. Democracies degenerate into despotism. And I believe for probably about 100 years, we've been on that path toward a more socialistic, a more globalist type system, taking away the republic and the liberty that we got from the republic and trying to make people more into the democracy on the path downward of freedom.
And why do you think we're going down that road?
Well, that's a good question, because I think it's a global affair that's been going on. It's been a progress toward a one world government and globalism and away from sovereignty of nations. And when we hear Donald Trump, yes, he wants to make America great, but he's not disparaging other countries. He's encouraging them to make their countries great as well, which means that it would not be a global situation. We'd have a lot of independent countries. Because we are governed best by the government closest to us, and the worst government we can have is the furthest away, which would be a global government.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%, folks, are on with Richard Battle. And yet, while we see the detriment that this could cause, it seems like there's a real penchant for it. I, for one, I'm turned off by the idea, but yet there's so many people that this is a real turn on for them.
Well, if you're talking about moving toward a global government and more socialistic government, I think that's the easy way out. And citizenship has rights, but it has responsibilities also. And we need to exercise those responsibilities to preserve our liberties, because if we don't get the rights without exercising the responsibilities. And none of us can do everything, but all of us can do one thing to contribute to our country in some form or fashion, and that's what I try to encourage people to do when they're frustrated, because the media and the politicians want to encourage us to sit back and watch TV or do something pleasurable and leave it to them to take care of us, and encourage for government to serve the people in a way that takes away our freedom and liberty. And so we have to exercise that citizenship right to retain that liberty.
Outstanding analysis. Richard Battle, let everybody know how they can get a copy of your book, quickly.
Well, Americans Who Made America, 18th Century Birth of the Republic is the first of a 4-book series. All books are signed at richardbattle.com. If you email me, richard@richardbattle.com, we'll inscribe them. Amazon, including Kindle and audio versions.
Outstanding. Richard Battle, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for being here and wish you a great weekend. Amigos, your calls and reactions are coming up right now. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Don't go anywhere.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to get into this, right? Not that long ago, Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick said AI and robotics are going to change the game with American jobs. And I think he might be onto something. We have a jobs report that's very positive. Despite the media trying to downplay it, we're not losing jobs like they said we would because of tariffs. And we've saw an increase in the amount of jobs we were expected to have. Listen to this.
This is a Goldilocks report, to say the least. This is a report that turned positive. You have 177,000 jobs added for the month of April. The expectation was about 133,000 jobs. So this is a nice beat for this report, but it is down lower from about 228,000 that we saw in March. Unemployment, that was a key number that we were going to focus in on. 4.2% is the unemployment rate. That remains unchanged, and that is what economists were looking for here. This report signaling that we're not seeing substantial job losses, at least for the month of April so far. And that was a worry with tariffs, induced potential concern there. This report goes from March 15th to April 15th. It doesn't take account the last 2 weeks of April, where we saw some 100,000 job cuts be announced by companies like UPS and Intel. That's something that's not going to come until the May jobs report. But for right now, this report really good.
So, solid report on jobs. Despite anything they try to tell you otherwise, things aren't so bad there. 90% of those jobs right here in the USA's private sector, not the government trying to prop this up just for their own benefit. So this begs the question, and I want to turn this over to you all, the American people. Will the job growth that we're seeing, despite tariffs, will this be the beginning of the next boom, the next revolution in America, right? Industrial or otherwise. And do we become the next manufacturing hub? I want to know. Let's go to Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Check in with Frank. Frank in Evergreen, go for it.
Thank you, Rich.
Yes,
Your
sir.
last guest, Mr. Battle, Richard Battle, wrote a book, Made in America by Americans, not Americans. A great title. And when I thinking about Boeing and how they kind of went downhill once they started manufacturing their production in Mexico, well, it became made in, and it's no longer made in America by Americans. It's by Mexicans. And I mean, their unions down there, it's really substandard. The parity of our dollar to their peso, I mean, they can't afford to exist, and so they're sloppy, starving labor that really can't compete with us in the production.
And
we should just pull out of Mexico.
I've had conversations where people have shared with me that not a lot, but some significant portion of the factories, manufacturing facilities that are in Mexico as well as in India are Chinese owned and in many ways Chinese operated despite being in Mexico. And they do that just to kind of get around things, kind of like they were doing in Macau to get around that new tariff. And I think this is one more tool that they've been using in their arsenal against us that I think it needs to end, putting it bluntly.
No more 737s made in Mexico, please, or parts made in Mexico from components from China. It's just, and they don't hold. The seals on lots of pressure pumps and everything, they go out real fast, and you just can't have this leakage by substandard plastics and made in China that sneaks into Mexico. It's not a trusted way to do business. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I think you're spot on. I think we learned in COVID that if we rely on China to make our medicine, we may not get it. That should have been, like the number one wake-up call. But it seems like we wanted to continue learning that lesson. So now we're learning it again with some of our more high technology items, like a Boeing 737. And I think we're seeing some consequences there as well. They might have seen some benefit of savings benefit, maybe new ways of streamlining these things because, like you said, less regulation. But ultimately, my mom always told me, "Lo barato sale caro," right? That which is cheap will cost you more, and that's just the reality of life. Frank in Evergreen, Montana. Thank you for your call, KOFI. Folks, we're continuing with open phones across America. We're going to get to your calls momentarily. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. If you want to give me a piece of your mind, feel free. If you disagree, we move you to the front of the line. And if you agree with us, we're still going to have the conversation because I enjoy those types of conversations. So feel free to do that, 833-4-VALDEZ. Now, let's go to Ridgefield, New Jersey, to Denise, who usually listens out of Atlantic City on WOND. Go right ahead.
Yes, I love WOND, and I love being up in Bergen County, too. But
yeah, me too. I love WOND. Denise, quick question for you. When you visit your house that's up north, do you stream the radio show or do you catch it like a signal that you can get on the radio?
No, I'm in Richfield now, and I pick it up on WONDradio.com.
Oh, okay. Streaming it. Very good. And tell me what's on your mind tonight.
Well, listen to this. First of all, I'm a veteran. I'm pro-America and all that kind of jazz. Thank you for your service. Yeah, thank you. Bottom line is my daughter-in-law purchased some shoes for me, like slip-ons from Temu. They were like $6.99. She bought me 2 pairs. I still haven't worn out the first pair. I've had it for 2 years, and there's no sign of wear or, for what it's worth, when I was growing up, they would say anything made in Japan was junk. We would say, oh, made in Japan, it's going to break in 2 days. But unfortunately, we don't have the kind of technology to make this stuff, I don't think, that's quality in America, which is sad. Secondly is in Philadelphia, I lived in Philly for a number of years when I worked at a TV station, and in Philadelphia, I think I'm pretty good on this. I mean, it's astronomical sounding, but there are 25,000 empty warehouses in Philadelphia. 25,000.
I believe it.
I mean, it's hard to believe, but I researched it, and the numbers came out like in different areas, like different locations said the same thing. 25,000 empty warehouses.
Man, well, let me tell you.
Philadelphia mostly.
Yeah, not that different than Jersey. I mean, if you look at, I go to Patterson every now and again, and in Patterson, very similar. There are tons of huge warehouses because it was once known as Silk City because they made silk and so much other fabric. And, Colt was there at one point, the gun manufacturer. There was so much production going on in Patterson at one point, and now it's not what it once was. And there's nothing but empty warehouse after empty warehouse after empty warehouse. And when you look at other places, there are new construction projects where they're making these huge distribution hubs that go empty, right? They're built and then they remain empty. They would be a great Amazon type of center, but maybe they're just not ready yet. Maybe they're not leased yet, but it doesn't look like they're being occupied. So you've got old factories that are empty and new factories that are empty, Denise.
Well, listen to this. I had to go get my driver's license. I had to go by train and bus. So
For
I had
the
to
real
go
ID?
What's that?
To get the real ID?
No. Just to get
renewal?
like 2 years ago, just to get my driver's license renewed or whatever. So I had to go from South Jersey, from Philadelphia to Trenton and Camden, and Camden to Trenton. And on the train ride there, I had to take a train. There were towns that looked like they were World War II, battlegrounds. One place I think was Riverton or someplace like that. I mean, in Cumberland County. I think it was Cumberland or Burlington County. It's amazing it's not just in North Jersey, in Patterson or Philadelphia. It's pretty much all over this general area. I mean,
yeah, the Northeast in general. I think you're right. I think that there was once a lot of manufacturing here, and it's since dissipated. But I think there is a comeback, and ultimately, no, I don't believe Americans are going to sit there and use sewing machines and sit there. I think some very smart American is going to figure out that you need somebody to fix and manage a bunch of robotic sewing machines that are mass producing things. And yeah, you can put that right in Patterson, New Jersey. You could put that in lots of different places where you just need the space. And there is a lot of space out there. So I think we're looking at that down the road. Always a great conversation, Denise. Thank you so much. I see we got calls from Canada coming in right now. Oregon and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Check this out. There was a kidnapping of a teenage girl, or attempted kidnapping. This guy tried to steal a 17-year-old girl in the middle of the day, it seemed, in New Jersey, North Bergen, New Jersey. And there were some nurses that I think were on their lunch break, and they got into it, right, with the guy, Roberto Canavelan, who is now charged with kidnapping and endangering the welfare of a child. And they peeled this girl away, like pried her from his arms. A 17-year-old girl. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I mean, not much difference between 17 and 19, other than, the age of majority and whatever, but it doesn't matter. Here he's getting a kid for charged for kidnapping a kid. It doesn't matter. He's trying to steal a human being, right? What was he going to do with this girl? I mean, just insanity of the world. It really is. I went to North Bergen High School. I know this area. I lived in North Bergen for when I was first married. I got to tell you, scary, scary stuff. Anyway, to the phones we go. It is the speed round. We're going to go to, let's see, Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA in the building. Go for it, brother.
Rich, great to talk to you, my friend, again. I had a couple quick points. I know President Trump listens to this program, and I wanted to say, sir, if you're listening to this program, I give you an A for your first 100 days, what the great things you're doing for our country. I want to thank you also. My girlfriend is in the Ukraine, who I love very much, and thank you for hanging in there with Ukraine until President Zelensky came around. And this is such a great deal, this mineral deal. Imagine if your opponent had won, things had gone very bad, and they sent NATO, including American troops, into Ukraine, right across the border from Putin. I feel this is a deterrent to Putin, but a much better one. So, and I see a quality in you I haven't seen in a president since the great Ronald Reagan, and you and him are the two best presidents of my lifetime. Thank you again, sir, for everything you do.
What an endearing message for the president. I love that. Very, very well thought out, Michael, and really well put. Michael in Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Thank you for the call, brother. That was like an early birthday gift to me. My birthday's Cinco de Mayo, by the way, so on Monday, I'll be 47 years old, and I'm thrilled. I love my birthday. It's always a fun time. Michael, thank you for the call. Let us continue in Pendleton, Oregon, right there on KUMA. It's popping tonight in Pendleton. Norma, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hello. Good evening. I've been very upset for many, many years since Bill Clinton was running the country, and watched all the businesses fly out of the country, and what happened afterwards, and it's been going on for so long, and my kids will stick their hands in their ears and say, "Mommy, stop talking about the government." But I could feel this wave coming on me. We weren't watching our borders too well then, but nothing like what the onslaught that just came over the borders.
Yeah.
But I think we should make this less about right and left and Republican and Democrat, because nobody can recognize who's who anymore. And I've seen that getting all cloudy through the years. And it's more about, are you a patriot? Do you love America? Is this a country where in God we trust? Or is this manipulative from hell I felt is coming on to us? Socialism and communism, and even in Cambridge, Mass, there was a place that was recruiting Marxism, and I just watched it through the years, and it didn't just happen overnight. And I think when we're done getting rid of what's going back home first is the violent criminals, I think we need to get rid of everybody, and anybody that doesn't love this country. I had 5 brothers that did 40 years of military service, and a father who lost 2 brothers in the war, and my ex was up to his neck in water in Vietnam. And I love this country, and I know what freedom is. I lived it.
Well, I want to thank you for your patriotism, and I think this is a very important point that you're making, right? And you didn't just say, in so many words, you didn't just say this is about patriotism versus being a commie, right? Because that is, I think, accurate in many ways. But you went on to talk about the roots, I'm going to say demonic roots of communism, right? And about a year or two ago, I interviewed somebody I have a lot of respect for, Paul Kengor, about his book, The Devil and Karl Marx. And it's a great book. And in the book, he talks about so many references that Marx has to the devil, which is interesting, right? And one of the quotes that Marx mentions is, "Thus heaven I've forfeited, I know it full well." He wrote that in a poem in 1832, a decade before he wrote the Communist Manifesto, going on to say, "My soul, once true to God, is chosen for hell." And this is very telling. If Marx knew that that's what his soul was doing, then it makes all the sense in the world that the roots of Marxism are demonic. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to talk about tariffs. I want to talk about a bunch of things, and I want to continue with your phone calls. Ziggy, Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Go for it quickly.
Hey, I love it. I love Trump. I love what he's doing. He's doing the right things. We do not need to feed all these illegals. What we need is all our Republicans to stand up and tell these Democrats if they want to go over to whatever country that
El
is.
Salvador. Yeah, Ziggy, I'm sorry, brother. We're out of time. I appreciate it, but I get the point. You become an American or go home. I hear you, brother. We got to protect our borders. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. If you're sticking around, there's more to come straight ahead. If not, I'll see you. I'm Rich Valdez.